Yes, ma'am. Good evening. Hello.
Hello, my name is Evie,
And I'm Sarah.
and we are teachers from the English Language School here to answer your questions about citizenship and about submitting the N400 specifically, and everything you have to do with that has to do with the interview.
Okay. So these are the questions that are the most common we have received over time, and we are just going to start by asking some of the popular ones submitted by you guys and some of our students.
Okay.
Okay?
How long does the whole N400 process take, Sarah?
Thank you for asking. Normally, your process is between 4 and 6 months. Sometimes it's more. The most I've seen is 12 months. Sometimes it's less. The least I've seen is 2 months. But the average, the medium, is 4 and 6 months.
Okay. Can I file the N400 with a pending I-751 petition?
So
Pending.
Pending.
Petition pending.
Pending. Petition pending. I didn't see that it was petition pending. No.
Pending. Yeah.
So no. If you have a petition to renew your green card and you are in process of renewing your green card, you cannot do both at the same time. You either do one or you do the other.
Okay. When can I file the N400?
You have two options. You can file if you have 3 years as a permanent resident and you've been married for 3 years to an American citizen. That is what we call the 3 and 3 rule. 3 years as a U.S. resident and 3 years married to an American citizen. If you have 3 years, then you can apply. If you have 5 years and you are not married to an American U.S. citizen, I mean, you can be, but you can apply for yourself without being married if you have 5 years. So it's either 3 years and you're married to a U.S. citizen or 5 years. Okay?
Okay. You can ask me this one.
Okay. The next question is, can I still use the N400 application even though it says expires March 31st, 2019?
That's a good question, and no. Though yes, you can use it to fill it out and to get your information ready for the actual submission. When they say that something expires, unfortunately, they mean you're not able to submit it and have it go completely through. If you were to go to their website and find the updated version of the N400, then you're able to use that one on the application itself. The one that is expired March 31st, 2019 is no longer valid.
They will send it back. So
Yes.
make sure you have the correct version, and that version can be found at uscis.gov. Next question. Should I apply for the N400 online or in paper?
That is all due to personal preference and what is easiest for you. So if you would like to submit it online to make it the most easy, that's completely fine. If you'd like to send everything after printing it out and after having someone look over it, then that is completely fine. The difference, I think, mainly would be the way that you pay. So you would either send a money order or a check with the envelope containing your application, or you would just submit a payment online. So whatever is your preference is correct.
Usually I say if you want to check, mail it. If you want to send with a credit card, do it online.
Okay.
Okay?
What if I didn't file a tax return because I didn't work?
Okay, that's a very good question. On your application, you will mention that you have a period of unemployment. For that period of time, if you are married, you should be on your spouse's tax returns. And so you will make a copy of your spouse's tax returns because you filed jointly. If you did not file jointly and you did not file taxes, you will have some kind of record to show that you did not work and you were unemployed, and therefore you did not qualify to pay your taxes for whatever years you did not pay your taxes. But there should be some form to verify whether or not you paid your taxes.
Okay.
What if I made a mistake on my application or my status changed after submission?
Okay. How about we cover this one and the others? So, any mistake on your application, like a change of status or some kind of marriage, divorce, anything new in your application, is sort of considered a mistake or a change in some way. Those are completely okay. However, you do need to have some form of documentation saying at the beginning of the interview, saying what exactly has changed and why. The reason that you do it at the beginning of the interview is to eliminate the possibilities of that question being brought up by the officer that is interviewing you. Yes.
Good question. So the next question is also, can I travel after I submit my application?
Yes, you can travel. When we are not in a pandemic and you're able to travel overseas or between states, it doesn't make a difference. You're able to travel, and as long as you keep a record of that and you can explain your travels, why it is that you went at this time, how long you were going,
Right.
all of that, and you can give that information when they ask for it or when you first get into the interview, then that's completely fine. Okay?
Good answer.
Thank you. What if I forgot to register for selective service? And what is selective service, Sarah?
Such a good and complicated question. The short answer is you probably already are registered for the selective service. What you do to verify your registration is you go to a website called sss.gov. That's sss.gov. When you're there, you can look up your case with your name, your birth date, and your social security number. They will give you a form that either verifies that you were registered or verifies that you were not registered with the selective service. If they cannot find your record, which does occur sometimes, what you do is you call the phone number. It's a 1-800 phone number. They also have Spanish and English phone lines, so you can wait for either, and they will look up your case for you, and they will email you the certificate that verifies either that you were registered or that you were not. Regardless, you must produce a letter that shows one or the other. The selective service, as Ms. Evie asked, is a inscription into the U.S. Army or Armed Forces. It requires all the able-bodied men between the ages of 18 and 26 to help or support the U.S. Armed Forces in the case of an extreme war or conflict. While it is somewhat unlikely that we will be in a situation like that, that is a requirement for every single man and now woman. Yeah. Every man and now woman in the United States between the ages of 18 and 26. If you are older than 26, you do not register. If you come to America after you turn 26, you don't register either. Okay, what's the next question?
All right. For the 100 civics questions, do I only provide one answer? Can I answer that one?
She can answer that one.
Yeah, okay. Yes and no. It depends on. Yes, because you will be given many options for this. Many of those, and you'll be able to answer just once. But the question will dictate whether or not it needs one answer, 2, 3, or more. Sometimes they're going to ask you for multiple names or multiple states or multiple pieces of information, and you'll hear that in the question. Many of the times these questions are only one answer, so you only need to provide one, and if you're one of our students, you'll see that you do have many options for answering, so whatever is easiest for you is the correct answer. As long as it's in that list and it's indicating just one, then yes, it's fine.
Good answer.
Does the process take long? Does the process take longer if I want to change my legal name?
No. After you pass your citizenship test and you take your oath of allegiance at the ceremony for the citizenship, you will have a new Social Security, new passport, and voter's registration. And I think, if I remember correctly, you also need to get a new driver's license. So I'm not sure about the driver's license, but for the passport, Social Security, and your voter's registration, this is true. So regardless of if you change your name or you don't, you still have to get new identification. Therefore, in many cases, if you're going to change your name, it does not make a difference.
Okay. And speaking of all the documents in the interview, does the officer take my green card after the interview is done?
That's a good question. No, the officer does not take your green card after the interview is completed. The officer often, not always, but often, will ask you for your green card to verify the information that is on your application. However, they will return your green card after the interview is completed. Thank you for asking. It's a good question. Can I say no to the question, bear arms on behalf of the United States?
No. You cannot say no. None of us can say no. Unfortunately,
The government has us all
unfortunately, it's not just with citizens. The fact of the matter is,
Todos nosotros.
all of us, we all have to say yes.
Amen.
Although,
Uncle Sam calls, I gotta go.
if the United States government asks you to fight on behalf of all of the citizens of the United States and the land itself, you have to say yes. It is not possible to say no. I mean, it's very rare that you would get. This is one of those. There's a list of questions at the very end that do not pertain to your personal information. These are questions that are asked as far as your loyalties to the United States, your affiliations with other countries, and this falls under the complete complete oath of allegiance. And you can't say no, because if we need every able-bodied person in the United States to fight on behalf of the United States, we have to know that everyone is going to have the willingness to participate in something. It's not guaranteed that you ever will, and most likely you will not. But if you're going to be a citizen of the United States, you have to say, yes, I am willing to bear arms on behalf of the United States.
Sometimes the requirement, sometimes they will give you an exception because you have a religious belief or a political belief against fighting. But you must be willing to promise your support to the United States. In some way. So if it's not in the way of using arms or gun or weapons, if it's not with weapons, you must support the United States or be willing to support the United States in a different way, one way or the other. So for those who have a religious reason why they cannot use weapons, that's okay and acceptable. But as Ms. Evie said, it's best to say yes and also follow with, I am, oh my word, what's the name of the
A pacifist?
I'm a pacifist. Thank you.
I am not able to do that.
I'm not able to do that.
But
I'm a pacifist.
you do have to support the United States if
in
you're
one
going
way,
to be
yeah.
a citizen. Yes. Okay.
Okay, so the next question is, do I need to know the meaning of the words on the application? Desafortunadamente.
Yes, you need to know the words that you are saying and the words that are being said to you. If you're watching this in English. Ergo, you're not going to have as many problems as those that speak another language primarily. But you do need to understand the words. You don't need to speak English perfectly, and you don't need to be able to answer it in 100 different ways. However, you do need to know what you're saying yes to, and you need to be able to not just understand but communicate back to the officer in English, and that's it.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a perfect answer. The main thing that they ask you in the interview is they're asking if you understand what they're saying in English, if you can respond in English, and if you're telling the truth. And as long as those two things occur, you will be fine. So if you don't know the meaning of all of the words, you should know
That's
because,
okay.
right, but
Yeah.
as long as you can speak English.
Right.
All right. Good answer.
Okay, thank you. Okay, how long does the application process take?
The process generally takes between 4 and 6 months from your application to your date.
Maybe it's more like how long would I have before after sending my application before I hear back from them?
That's
typically?
a good question. So normally after you send your, that's a great question. After you send your application, about 1 to 2 weeks afterwards, you will receive a letter that will confirm your application and give you something called a receipt number. Usually it begins with an I, O, E, and then like 9 numbers, or an A, E, and then 9 numbers. The receipt is not an actual receipt like you get when you go to HEB, but it's a receipt that shows you your number associated with your application. After you receive your letter to confirm your application submission, you know that you are good and in process, okay? After which, maybe 1 month later or 6 weeks later, you will receive your notification of your appointment for your fingerprints. That's where you go and get your biometric fingerprints taken. After which, there's anywhere between 3 and 4 months where you wait for the notification of your interview. You will receive a notification exactly 1 month before your interview. It is important that you look at your mailbox so that you know exactly when you get your interview. I suggest you go to the USCIS website. They have a section for you to follow the progress of your case. You log in and you can see when your interview is scheduled and that kind of thing. So we do suggest that you log in online so that you can keep a closer eye on everything. And we definitely suggest you check your mail because you will receive a notification about a month before your interview, and it's very important that you have that time to prepare.
Speaking of the interview, what if something happens and I have to reschedule?
Very good question. We advise that you do not reschedule. If you have an extreme circumstance, or if you have a very good excuse, such as you have a death in your family and you must leave, or you have a ticket that you've already purchased and you cannot get a refund. Things that are extreme and things that are important are good excuses you can use to reschedule your interview. However, your interview will be delayed, and it could be 4 months, it could be 2 months, you do not know. Therefore, our recommendation is normally to take your interview. Do not delay your interview. If you are scared and you want more time to prepare, do not delay your interview. It is better to go to your interview and maybe 50% you pass, 50% you don't pass. It's better to go to your interview and maybe not pass than to miss your opportunity and have to wait 2 to 4 additional months.
Yeah, not only will that help you with what you're going to expect on the next time that you go to your interview, but you're also going to be able to test only for the material that you did not pass.
That's a good point. When you take your test, you have 3 opportunities to pass. And as Ms. Evie very wisely stated, if you pass the English writing and the civics questions, but you don't pass the reading, you only retake the reading section. Everything else you don't have to take again. So you only need to pass one time each of the sections. That's a good point.
Okay. All right.
Oh, next question. What should I do if I moved after I submitted my application?
Well, it's the same as the other question about your change in information. If any of your information has changed, all you have to do is tell the interviewer at the beginning of your interview what has changed. Although you can call the office and disclose that information beforehand, it's easiest and probably best to do that at the interview itself, because you're going to have to explain that anyway. And the added benefit to doing it in person is that your interviewer will see that you're able to explain yourself well in English because you prepared beforehand.
Very good question.
All right, I can answer this one.
Sure.
All right.
So the next one is, do I need to report all of my traffic violations?
No, you do not. There is a section in your application and in the interview that speaks on all of your criminal history, whether you've been in jail, whether you have been arrested. These are questions that they will already have the answers to. So any kind of traffic violations, if they don't see it, then it's not important, and frankly you don't need to disclose all of that. The big ones are things like being arrested, having time in jail, having a conviction on your record, but the ones that are smaller, like traffic violations or infractions, do not need to be disclosed, and you would see it on your record. If you have a clean record, great. If you have anything on your record, that is the information that you need to disclose. Yes.
And speaking of your record, if I might, this is one thing that almost everyone forgets, but you need to have a background check attached to your application. This makes it the process a lot faster for you to have your background check already completed. To do so, go to your local police station and they will give you a FBI background check. The cost in San Antonio is $10. In other places, it may be a free service. But they run your fingerprints and it's only you. They won't do it over the phone, and you must physically go down there, and they will not allow like another person to go for you. But it's such a good idea to have that in your application when you send it off as evidence, and also with you when you go to your interview.
Okay, well that's all the time we have for today.
Thank you. Sorry.
That's okay. We've already answered those about any kind of changes. So if you travel, if you get divorced, if you get married, you have a baby, any change in your application, you are able to speak on at the interview itself. And it's not uncommon that people have changes, because oftentimes this is a year, maybe like 6 months, maybe even just 3 months. A lot can change in that time. We've had students that have been divorced or married or remarried, or they have babies during that time, and those are all changes, and they understand that. So as long as you can give them that information up front and you're able to explain yourself, then everything should be fine.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Ms. Eve.
Thank you, Ms. Sarita.
All right. Bless you guys.
Okay, bye.
If you have more questions, you can comment below. And we're going to shut this off now.
Okay. Bye.
Oh. It sounds like people are here.
Yeah.